Yeah.
But I think there is a way, the lockdown, when it was put in, there is a way it compromises on the freedom of people, freedom of speech and freedom of celebration, because it's a day that is set constitutionally for them to celebrate.
Yeah, so let's get started on that note, where the situation in Tanzania remained calm for the better part of Tuesday, despite anticipation of nationwide protests that had raised concerns over possible unrest. In
major cities including Dar es Salaam and Dodoma, a heavy presence of security forces was observed, with police and military personnel conducting intensive patrols to prevent demonstrators from accessing central business districts.
The Tanzanian military was deployed in key areas of Dar es Salaam to reinforce security and deter any attempts to disrupt public order.
The camp followed government directives issued on Monday, ordering residents to remain indoors as the country marked its Independence Day on December 9th.
Authorities had earlier imposed a blanket ban on all protests, citing public safety and national stability concerns amid heightened tensions.
Ningependa kuwajulisha kuwa hadi mchana huu wa tarehe 9 mwezi wa 12 2025, hali ya usalama wa nchi ni shwari. Vyombo vya ulinzi na usalama vinaendelea kuimarisha usalama nchini sambamba na kulinda maisha ya watu na mali zao. Aidha, jeshi la polisi lingependa kutoa wito kwa wananchi kuendelea kuzipuuza picha mjongeo na picha mnato zinazoendelea kusambazwa kwenye mitandao ya kijamii zikionyesha kwamba kuna maandamano yameanza maeneo mbalimbali. Taarifa hizo sio sahihi. Wanatumia picha mjongeo na picha mnato za matukio ya nyuma kama vile ya tarehe 29, tarehe 30 na tarehe 31 mwezi wa 10 2025.
The Kenya Union of Clinical Officers has issued a fresh strike threat, warning that they will head off to a strike if the expiry of a 21 days notice issued to the Ministry of Health is not adhered to.
The union staged peaceful demonstration on Tuesday, marching from Green Park Terminus to the Ministry of Health headquarters at Afya House in Nairobi.
During the protest, union leaders accused Health Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale of failing to sign a return to work agreement that would pave the way for the absorption of clinical officers into permanent and pensionable terms of service.
Speaking during the demonstration, KUSO Secretary General Peterson Washira said the government has not implemented key commitments to outlined in the 2024 return to work agreement.
These include promotions, confirmations, improved remuneration, and the transition of clinical officers from contract and internship positions into permanent and pensionable employment.
Shari imekubali, SRC wamekubali, lakini kigugumizi imebaki kuwa waziri. Siku ikitimia tarehe 23 mwezi wa 12 tutaanza mgomo kirasmi na tutafunga hospitali zote nchini.
We concluded the negotiation in September of 2025, 3 months ago. The documents are printed, ziko kwa meza ya CS for 3 months. For 3 months. Tunangoja document ambayo imemaliziwa. For 3 good months. Kwa hivyo sisi kama maafisa tabibu, tunasikia hii wizara inatudhararisha. Tunasikia discriminated and that they do not recognize and appreciate the work that we do.
The Kenyan National Commission on Human Rights, KNCHR, has raised serious concerns of the state of human rights in the country after recording 57 deaths and 661 human rights violations this year.
In its annual State of Human Rights report, the Commission described Kenya's human rights performance during the period under review as deeply troubling, citing grave violations that shocked the nation.
KNCHR noted that the incidents cut across various sectors, pointing to persistent challenges in accountability, governance, and protection of fundamental freedoms.
The Commission also sharply criticized the conduct of recent by-elections, declaring that they did not meet the threshold of being free and fair.
According to the report, at least 3 people lost their lives during the by-elections, 2 in Kaspul constituency and 1 in Kabuchai.
The commission further revealed that its officers were locked out of 2 polling centers in Mbeere, raising concerns over transparency and access for independent oversight.
Additionally, the commission documented widespread electoral malpractices, including massive voter bribery and the use of hired guns in several areas. Practices, it says, undermined democratic processes and voter confidence.
The commission documented 57 violations on the right to life. These include the killing of a human rights defender, one Richard Otieno in Molo. There was a question on the number of deaths in the by-election, and we've documented 3. So 2 of them were from Kasipul, Kabondo, during the by-elections. And then there was one there was a 70-year-old in a stampede in Kabuchai. So those are the 3 deaths that we've been able to document. 2 in Kasipul and 1 in Kabuchai.
The commission monitored these by-elections, and they were kept out of 2 tallying centers, Chicago Primary School in Mbeere North and Mumboni North Ward. They were kept out of those tallying centers, and therefore we cannot make a decision on whether the elections were free and fair because we were denied entry.
Global civic freedoms continued to decline in 2025, with nearly 3/4 of the world's population now living in countries where fundamental rights are severely restricted, according to a new report by the Civicus Monitor.
The report, titled People, Power and Attack 2024, documents more than 3,000 violations of civic freedoms between November 2024 and October 2025.
These violations range from the harassment of protesters and journalists to the targeted repression of human rights defenders.
Out of 198 countries assessed, only 39 are now classified as having open civic space, while 83 fall into the worst categories of repressed or closed.
The report highlights a sharp escalation in the use of detentions as a tactic of repression.
Protesters were detained in at least 82 countries, while journalists were arrested in 73 countries during the same period.
Civicus Monitor warns that the shrinking of civic space poses a serious threat to democracy and human rights worldwide, as citizens face increasing risks for exercising their basic freedoms.
Their civil liberties to protest. At least they gave notice of that. And when the state is busy repressing. In the neighboring Uganda, we know that civil liberties are being curtailed. Elections are next month, middle of next month, and police have been interfering violently with rallies of the leading presidential opposition candidate, Bobi Wine.
Express their sovereignty either through Article 37, the right to peacefully protest. We can also exercise that right through elections. And we have seen elections has become a cancerous issue in East Africa, from Tanzania, and now we're going to Uganda in January, and back to Kenya in 2027. And so on the issue of elections, we are actually coming up with proposed amendments to reform to restructure the IEBC so that it can be able to produce credible.
Well, that's an interesting report on the state of freedoms and rights in countries, and for over 80 countries worldwide to have problems with the implementation of democracy and just the abuse of civil rights shows a lot. And just about 20 countries across the world where they've got an open free space and civic space. That's quite an interesting report.
And I'm wondering, where can these around 83, where can they copy from the list? Because one thing I want to ask for this kind of civic freedom is that sometimes it's like you feel you're supposed to bar me from what I'm supposed to be doing. And as I mentioned off air, that we look at our uniformed brothers and sisters. They know very well and maybe the constitution articulates what they're supposed to do, and you're not supposed to go out of what you're supposed to do. And I, or us as journalists, we're not supposed to go and say that police should not do the right thing that they're supposed to do as far as their job description gives it outlines. Yeah, but you come to a point whereby journalists are attacked because they are in the line of duty or work. I think that kind of repression is something that we don't need to expect, because if you are working in a certain category, we need fruits from the same, we need you to deliver from the same. But if you put under pressure, you are attacked, you are killed, and you may be put into pressure, or there is a way you're blocked from serving how you're supposed to serve, I think it takes us back to a kind of new era in colonialism.
Right. It will be interesting as well to just have a breakdown on the report on the number of African countries, the number of European countries, the number of Asian countries, those in the Middle East as well, that, you know, can fall in either of the categories. One thing I've really noted about protests in countries like the UK and France as well, which I believe is quite the popular one, is that, you know, their protests are quite unique, I'd say, for lack of a better one, to the extent where you'd have a president or even a prime minister in the European nations resign because of the pressure from people. The question is, in Africa, if this were to be, how many presidents or prime ministers or heads of state or governments would, you know, step down from their seats and just listen to the people? So I'll leave that question to you.
It is very hard, Cynthia, because we saw, and this kind of story started from Paul Biya of Cameroon. Getting back into seat around 92 years, it is very hectic, and I hope after you've worked for a long time, you need some time to rest and at least to use all that you amassed as your wealth. But there is something I'm looking at in Africa. You find that a lot of leaders that we have, you find that they are trying to amass wealth from whichever direction, illegally, and maybe trying to pressure people into, and trying to use the desperate people to make sure that they have something in their pocket. And this into power and politics brings us, or brings our leaders, into a point that if anything happens, I'm out of office, I'm out of power, there is a way what I amassed can be taken away, maybe by the government that will be incoming, because maybe I amassed this wealth illegally. So for Africa to see such a change, and maybe to listen to people who voted you, or to the citizenry, I think it won't be easy, because I'm looking at, I've been taking advantage of this, and I've been getting this from this. So if I'm out of this, there is something I won't be getting. So believe me, I know it won't be easy for an African leader to pay attention. Indeed.
Now, Molo Member of Parliament Kimani Kuria has joined other leaders in supporting the government's decision to sell a 15% stake in Safaricom, saying that the proceeds will be directed towards improving infrastructure across the country.
Speaking at St. Mary's Catholic Church, Kuria explained that the move aims to reduce traffic congestion and open up urban centers in the country's interior for greater investment opportunities.
He urged citizens not to fall into misleading traps regarding the share sale, emphasizing that the initiative is intended to ease tax burdens on the public while promoting development.
Kuria said the government's plan is part of broader efforts to enhance national infrastructure, attract investment, and stimulate economic growth in previously underserved areas.
Hii barabara ambayo inatusumbua kila wakati. Ukitoka Nairobi kuja Nakuru kufika Molo, unatumia masaa 5, masaa 6, masaa 7, masaa 8, na wakati wa sikukuu tunaona kwa barabara. Ni kweli ama ni uongo? Ni kweli ama ni uongo? Nyinyi wananchi mlituambia zile kodi ambazo mnalipa imewafika mahali mnaona pengine hamwezi kulipa kodi zaidi ya hapo kwa sababu mmelipa kodi kabisa. Ni kweli ama ni uongo? Ile madeni ambayo tumekopa kutoka kwa World Bank, tumekopa kutoka kwa IMF, tumekopa from Exim Bank, tumekopa kila mahali kwa sababu ya maendeleo, na barabara bado hatujaweza kujenga. Tukajiuliza kama serikali ya Kenya Kwanza, ni njia gani nyingine ambayo inaweza tumika kugharamia hii miradi ya kama barabara hii ya kutoka Rironi kuja hapa. Tukasema ni njia mbili. Moja ni ile inaitwa public private partnership. ni kutafuta wawekezaji wakuja watengeneze hiyo pesa wakitumia pesa zao, alafu walikave kutoka kwa tolls katika hiyo barabara. Hiyo ni maendeleo ama si maendeleo? Ya pili, tukajiuliza mahali ambapo tuko na asset, wewe ukiwa mzazi na uko na ng'ombe na uko na mbuzi na mtoto wako amefukuzwa shule, unaenda kukopa, mnashika kitu yenye uko nayo kwa nyumba? Tunashika kitu yenye uko nayo kwa nyumba? Tukasema kuna shares.
And Cindy, I'm looking at the issue of the government wanting to, or even in the urgency of selling 15% of Safaricom shares, and the catch line or the catchy phrase here is they want to input this money into infrastructure. They want to decongest maybe CBD, and again they want to ease the burden of taxes in this country. And my worry is, as we've always been, how we'll make sure that this money is well appropriated for. We'll make sure that this money is analyzed and used well. We'll be accountable for this kind of money, because we've seen a lot of developments that are launched in or projects that are launched, but after the launching they just left as they were. And we're looking at is it Rironi Mau Summit Road is supposed to be dualed, and we're waiting to see whether it will go as promised. Now I'm looking at this kind of money, this kind of shares, if sold, we shall be getting maybe a lot of billions from the same, but we'll make sure that this money will be used well, because they're talking of developments from the same. And if these shares are not sold, do we mean that they can't produce such amount of money given a certain period of time? Why do they have to rush to make sure that these 15% shares are sold?
Now, to just look into the details of the deal with Vodacom, so that you can just understand Vodacom, so that you can just understand what it's all about. So the government will receive 204.3 billion shillings from selling 6.01 billion shares, reducing its ownership from 35 to 20%. That means they've sold 15%, while retaining 2 board seats. Now, the government included some conditions for the sale, including that Vodacom must consult the government before any expansions outside Kenya. The chairman of the board and the CEO must always be citizens of Kenya. No changes to local supplies within the next 3 years except in the ordinary course of business, and that independent directors will at all times have Kenyans being the majority. So that's quite a significant amount of money, 204 billion shillings, and that is what the government has decided to give up 15% of its shares. And you've raised good critical questions on why they went for this deal, and whether or not the money will actually serve the purpose that it's meant to serve. I look at the Kenyan economy, and perhaps there's an explanation to that, with the fact that we are on a cycle of borrowing and repaying loans, and that cycle is such a deadly cycle, for that matter, for any economy. And so getting 204.3 billion shillings is a relief, yes, but a temporary relief for that matter, because we need more than 204 billion shillings for us to do the proper development that is required in the country. So yes, relief, but is it a long-term relief or just relief for the next couple of years, and then we'll be back to square one? And so it's a question on now the 20% that is left. Will they be looking forward to improve those shares in years to come, or what is the situation ahead? So that has been supported. The move by government has been supported by a number of MPs who say it's infrastructural development.
There's something I want, Trust, and I want by that idea, because yes, we have the 204 billion, but where will it go? They've said will go into decongesting, will relieve taxes from citizens, but how?
It needs to be very specific. I mean, specificity is such a key thing. Let's not just say infrastructure development. I mean, there are so many things that can be developed. Are we talking about a stadium? Are we talking about a particular road? Are we talking about systems, infrastructure, improving a particular system? Is it SHA? What is it specific? And so those are some of the details that really need to be made public, so that people understand what specific development are we talking about.
But I think that we just get around CBD and along Afia Center somewhere there, there is, I don't remember the name of that road, but it comes all the way from, it branches off Moi Avenue all the way to Afya Center, then coming all the way to railways. If you go around that region, you find maybe a lot of it's like they want to revamp the roads around that region, but it has taken too long. Then if you go very close to Afya Center, you find a lot of congestion, Nissans that are ferrying Kitui, Machakos, and maybe Watertown. You find a lot of vehicles around that region. Actually, they parked in a petrol station around there. That is where their stage is. But the issue is, if they're talking about decongesting maybe CBD and the regions that are around, will it make impact? Will it be done? Because we've seen a lot of promises on our developments, and we've seen this money is out for this project, but at the end of it all, you find that a lot of and a good amount of money went into the leaders that we just don't want to mention. And I don't have to stand with the MP supporting what the government is really doing, because this is not the only thing that is taking place. If you go to Mara, we talked about the wild beast yesterday. We see what's happening around that region. So it's like the government is making money from every place, but we don't see where the money is going. We won't see how the money is used. We're not seeing who is accountable for this amount of money. We've never seen anyone doing a good analysis of this money. We are told we've got this money, but at the end of it all, we don't see anything coming out of the same.
All right, allow us to take a quick break at that particular point, but when we come back, we'll be getting into the newspapers. Interesting politics of 2027 have begun, and the ministers, the people we call cabinet secretaries, are at the center of it. So that is the headline on The Nation. We'll be talking about that when we come back, as well as the headline on The Standard. Stay with us, don't go too far.
Watching EBN TV.
All right, good morning. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. We'd love to get into the newspapers this morning. I have the Daily Nation. Jeff has the Standard. So I'll kick it off with the Nation. Top of the page headline has got all to do with the 2027 general election. So Ruto ministers to lead 2027 poll campaigns. Ruto ministers to lead 2027 poll campaigns. Now, buoyed by the recent victory in 7 parliamentary by-elections, President William Ruto has tasked cabinet secretaries to take charge of his re-election campaigns in their respective regions in a move that is likely to wrong-foot the opposition. In other words, what we are saying is that now the CSs from the regions, if the CS is from the Mount Kenya region or from the Luo Nyanza region or from the coastal region, now they will be leading campaigns from this region. Whose campaigns? The re-election of President William Ruto. So Ruto's extra duties for CSs on the 2027 elections. Now, before we get into that, I'd just love to read an article of the Kenyan Constitution, Article 152, which separates cabinet secretaries from parliament, requiring them to resign from any political party and not to be members of parliament. Now get this, to focus on executive duties and avoid bias, promoting non-partisan governance, and though they remain politically accountable to the president and parliament, needing approval and attending sittings to answer questions on their dockets. Now the CSs must not be members of parliament and must relinquish party positions, aiming for neutrality, though recent legal interpretations like the Conflict of Interest Act have nuanced the rules on cabinet involvement. Now there's a big question that has been asked a lot of times on the politics and the CSs, and whether or not it is a great decision to have politicians be the cabinet secretaries, or rather go for technocrats to be the cabinet secretaries. Now the advantage, I must say, that the president has is that majority of his cabinet secretaries are actually seasoned politicians. Aden Duale, Kipchumba Murkomen, Opiyo Wandayi, Ali Hassan Joho, John Mbadi. These are experienced politicians who also sit in cabinet. So as much as they may be the decision making of the executive in matters to do with cabinet decisions in the country, at the bottom of their hearts, these are politicians. And so they'll also perhaps be giving views on just, what do we need to do to win this region, which seems to be going against us? Or how do we start mobilizing the ground? These are people who have also, mobilized people to elect them into various positions. So the nationwide drives bear fancy tag development tours, but behind them is a new plan by Ruto to use the same CSS to oil his re-election machinery, raising constitutional questions. Now, if you look at the recent by-elections, Opiyo Wandayi was leading the re-election of the Ugunja Member of Parliament. Musalia Mudavadi, who's a prime CS, also sits in the same cabinet, was leading the re-election in Malava. The deputy president, as well as the CS for public service, Ruku, was leading the by-elections in Mbeere North, while Ali Hassan Joho, the CS, was leading by-elections in Mombasa. So if that's a clear picture, then you've gotten a picture really of just how essential these CSs are going to be for Ruto. And
they need to throw some points in there. And the constitution is very clear that you need to relinquish any political party, any involvement in any political party. You're not supposed to be involved, if at all you're CS. And the constitution is also talking about neutrality. This is to mean in your docket you need to serve like every person. You need to serve. Actually, we are supposed to be serving in your docket. If maybe it's about interior and maybe issue like mining, you need to serve that, but you don't have to be there and also doing politics. You've done it very clear that we saw CSS presiding over campaigns that took place in actually the main regions, Malava, Mombasa, and Mbeere North. And we had the deputy president in Mbeere North and Ruku, CS for Labor, and
CS for public service.
For public service, sorry, then I'm looking at it where I want to pick some words from our President Dr. William Ruto just a few weeks ago, if not days, where he said that a lot of people are saying that, or are pushing him to serve around 20 years. When he mentioned that as he enters, or even as he goes to maybe 90 years of age, Kenya will be a first world country. That is where these statements came from. And he said that, and I quote, that these people are very stupid who want me to go for, to be a president maybe for 20 years. And now I'm looking at it whereby this CSS will be used as machinery to propel his 2027 presidential bid. This is to clearly mean that we've seen from the by-elections, and this is to clearly show that this will be happening very soon. And it was an advantage for him to put Aden Duale, to put Murkomen, Aden, and this guy from Mombasa, Hassan Joho, and another key person, knowing that these are politicians, but I have to position them into places of CSS, to mean that there is a time we'll get and make sure that I'll be using these people as CSS, and again, I'll be using them as politicians to make sure that my re-election bid will be put into consideration and they'll make sure that I win. And I remember some statements that he put across that if you don't bring victory home by elections, you become political liability or you are a loss to this country. And I wonder if maybe, because if we have to put someone into position, they have to be put through the votes that we cast. Yeah. And if we've not cast any vote, this is to mean we don't want you maybe, and this is to mean maybe you did not qualify and someone was better than you. So if you don't win, don't come home. And you're in Kenya.
Yeah. Now, interestingly, I'd go back to something Raila Odinga, the late, said in 2017. Now, Raila Odinga, in his 2017 petition, argued that cabinet secretaries as public officers are barred under the Constitution, the Political Parties Act, and the Public Officers Ethics Act, and as well the Election Offences Act from participating in political activities. Odinga contended that Section 23 of the Leadership and Integrity Act, which exempts CSs from impartiality requirements, was unconstitutional. He sought prosecution of CSs allegedly campaigning for President Kenyatta and urged the court to declare the provision invalid. Supporters counter that CSs are carrying out their official mandate of public participation and overseeing development projects. Now, the Supreme Court, while nullifying the 2017 presidential vote, rejected Odinga's claims, ruling that CSS and County Executive Committee members may participate in political activity as they serve at the pleasure of the president or the governor. The court noted that Section 23 is ambiguous but declined to declare it unconstitutional, stating that political appointees are expected to deliver on the manifesto of the appointing authority. So, as you can see, there are two sides to it, but largely, you know, most of these people are just political appointees, for lack of a better word. If you look at the likes of Kipchumba Murkomen, you know, they vied for seats in their respective counties. He vied for the Elgeyo Marakwet senator, and, you know, he won the elections, but after being appointed as the CS, he had to resign and then now, you know, go for this position. So I'd say actually these cabinet positions are appointees of the president, so they are largely you know, bounded by, you know, that decision to automatically support the president and his re-election. The big question we should be asking ourselves is, will the people, because they are going to the electorates, will the electorates be able to align themselves with the CS and still believe that the president can as well come in for a second term and, you know, do more development for the nation? Are we going to see a scenario where the citizens head to a different path or go down a different path and move away from supporting Ruto's second term?
And it's so interesting that the Daily Nation is talking of CS's extra duties.
I mean, yeah, you will be the head of this ministry, but at the same time, you are my point man in terms of campaigning in the region.
Then I'm also looking at the revenue for this country. I know if you're given a second responsibility, or you added a duty on top of what you keep doing, this is to mean you'll be paid for the other duty. So it'll be paid as a campaigner, then you'll be paid as a CS. And this money paid to them as, or even to campaign for Dr. William Ruto, I think it is money that could have been channeled to the development of this country, and more so to the most marginalized regions of this country. All
right, before we head to the Standard, just one final headline story as well. Tanzania lockdown subdues Independence Day protests. I believe we spoke about this in length as we began the show on just why Tanzania lockdown cities battles fake news on Independence Day. It was empty streets, literally, as they were celebrating 62 years of independence. And, you know, I had a guest previously here who's a lecturer as well as a sociologist, and says, you know, Julius Nyerere will be turning on his grave because of what he fought for Tanzania to be and what it is now. Quite the opposite.
Yeah.
And so that as well is the story that is on the Nation, as well as what we did earlier on the human rights violations in Kenya, as well as just the rising number of killings, extrajudicial abductions, as well as just, you know, basically negligence by security officers in terms of dealing with protesters. So those are some of the stories on the Daily Nation.
Now, I want to copy something from the Bible, and I want to make a reflection to what happened in Tanzania yesterday. And I just want to give an assignment to our audience and to our viewers that let's go to the book of Genesis and look at the story of Cain and Abel, what happened to them. And it was about being accepted by God. And when I go to the story of Tanzania is that, and actually any leader from anywhere around the world, that if you exactly and you very clearly know that people does not love you, why can't you just sit down and relax and just exit from the position that you are holding for the country? Because I don't have to see how valid and how convenient it is for you to keep on pushing or even to keep on forcing to stay in a certain position, and you know very well that you leading like you just won. That does not interpret even to 0.001 of the population of that country. So you are leading the majority. Then what they say, it is like you've turned your ears deaf into a point that you can never listen, you can never hear into what they keep saying, into every lamentation that they keep saying, and you just say that sisi ni watu wazuri, sijui nini nini, and it's like you just want to paint yourself good, you want to present yourself good to the people, and they clearly know that nothing you ever do. And as that guest said a week or 2 weeks ago, they said maybe, who was this leader you've mentioned? This president from Uganda, is it?
From Uganda?
Yes, from Tanzania, sorry, from Tanzania.
Samia Suluhu.
No, Samia Suluhu.
Julius Nyerere.
Yes. Maybe rolling because in a grave, because that is what he fought for. And what he fought for, I think people have refuted and they are going against it, which maybe he set a very good foundation, but the leaders that come, they don't see the foundation that is set. So I would always urge that if you're a leader and people does not love what you're doing, it's always good to step down and make sure that all change. Yeah.
All right.
And moving to the Standard Kenya's board newspaper, it's about a story we did yesterday about the issue of Mara and the world-based migration in Masai Mara. And the statement is on the top page of the Standard, is killing the Mara, and they also calling it furnishing wilderness. The Masai Mara, and disputably Kenya's crown jewel, is wildlife is facing its most serious assault in decades. A surge of land grabs, poisoned wildlife, blocked migration corridors, and bitter ownership battles are slowly choking this global tourism magnet. Predators are being killed, habitats carved up, and communities pushed into violent protests as powerful individuals move to seize chunks of land at the heart of the reserve, with court rulings hunting control to prime territory, to private interest, and toxic chemicals wiping out lions and hyenas. The future of the Mara hangs in the balance. And there are some numbers that I just want to give out to you. And 4.3 billion is the amount Narok County collected in park fees in 2023. And 55% of tourist facilities lacked impact assessment reports, and 50% these are facilities built within 30 meters of riparian land, contributing to environmental destruction. And if you just get a copy of the Standard, on top page you find the disputed Okiombo Ranch, and this is Mara Okiombo airstrip. And Cindy, I'm looking at some numbers here that Narok County collected 4.3 billion park fees in 2023. We have not seen the report in 2024 and maybe in 2025 what was collected. And I'm looking at the conflict that we are looking at, and this is a natural aspect that has been taking place for a long time. Wild animals themselves migrating from one region to the other, which has been a very great and lucrative tourist attraction and tourist magnet to this country that has been giving us a good amount of money maybe to support the developments of this country. But I'm looking at a place whereby if you have to exchange something for the other, I think the next one that you are getting will be better and beneficial and an advantage more than the one that you've had. So I'm looking at the issue of Mara, whereby a lot of structures are built 30 meters on riparian land or to block this migration to take place in Masai Mara. And we are looking at we looked at an hotelier, I forgot the name, but who is benefiting from this, or who is maybe buying land to make sure that this migration or this aspect and this issue of migration does not take place again, affecting the Kenya's crown jewel. And this is to clearly show that this migration will not be taking place again. And on the flip side is that if Narok County itself made 4.3 billion on park fees for 2023. This is to mean if they have to change this, and if this becomes a conflict, this is to clearly show that maybe there's someone who is making more money from the same and from blocking this migration, from buying or even building 30 meters on the riparian land to block this migration of wild beasts.
Yeah, and it's interesting that the head of state yesterday was also out on, I'd say, an event which is also integral in terms of tourism in the country. And, you know, this is something that he should have addressed as the head of state. Yeah. The CS for tourism was also there. This is something that should have been addressed. Now, 4.3 billion shillings in terms of revenue for a county is quite a massive amount of money, which, you know, incredibly can do wonders for a county government. Yeah. And at the same time, the CS for Narok was also signing contracts with the CCs and says Narok is one of the best performing and best progressive counties within Kenya. This obviously may be attributed to, you know, among other things, agriculture, but most importantly, tourism. Yeah. And so that should be the focus, really. How do we make it better? Not, you know, what are some of these challenges that are trying to deter an economy of this county or an economy of the nation from doing well? So killing the Mara is quite a worrying headline this morning. And the CS for tourism should be looking at this and wondering, you know, what is it that we are getting wrong? How can we make things right? What is the conflict all about? I believe it is important for people to understand, stakeholders to understand what the conflict is before you can try to solve the conflict. So this is such a worrying headline, and I would have loved for the head of state to, you know, mention this or address this while he was out yesterday on that, you know, Rhino event as well. Yeah,
and I think 2 weeks ago, a lot of people could have seen how these wild beasts were poisoned, and a lot of them died. Just, I think it was before they crossed the river. That is how they died, and this was out of poisoning. This is to clearly mean there are some animals that come into extinction. And I saw, there is a bird that I saw, I think 2 days ago, that is becoming extinct. That if we play or even if we jog too much, this is a bird that will never see it, and it is a tourist attraction. So even before they kill the Mara, I think the Mara is the place. And they want to kill the Mara, but before they kill the Mara, some few days ago we saw how they poisoned the wild beast, and we are looking at the hoteliers buying lands around that region. They are building structures on the region. So I want to feel that since there's someone who is benefiting more on the same, because I don't want to imagine if this is and we're looking at 55% of tourist facilities lacked impact assessment reports. And this is to mean there is an assessment, or there is an amount of money that is not put clearly into our eyes, because we only see 4.3%. This to mean this has been a benefit to very many people, but maybe one person or a group of people are ready to take this, because if you kill a wild animal and in good numbers, this is to mean that you just want that tourism sector to end, or even that attraction, you want it to end. Yeah, so this is to mean you're just benefiting alone, and any other person won't be benefiting from the same. And it's so dangerous for a country. A time will come when we say that we've only got 5 wild beasts in Kenya. Okay, page 2 of the Standard. How KJCR results will be a far cry from past exam celebrations. There's a story you can read from page 2. And page 3 of the Standard. Betty Bayo, mom demands inquest over mysterious daughter death. Joshua Erimo says denied medical records. Autopsy have fueled suspicions of foul play. She also calls for grandchildren's welfare and access to important documents. And we know that Betty Bayo is Kenyan gospel musician. Yes, sorry for that. And she passed, is it 2 weeks ago? And we saw a lot of stories surrounding death, and some reports we've not yet verified, and that's why a mother is coming out to demand inquest of a mysterious daughter's death. And we hope, as she continues to rest in peace, we hope they'll be served with they'll be served as they wish, and the truth will be known. And page 4 of the Standard. Masai Mara threat, while home towards 8th wonder is uneasy. And page 5 of the Standard. KNHCR warns of rising cases of rights abuse. That's a story we did on the bulletin, and you can read that from page 5 of the same. And I think I just need to read 2 stories, then we call it a day. DPP amends charges as man faces Russia human trafficking probe. And a story we also did yesterday and some days ago. Then page 7, IBC 6 powers to reject party lists that fail 2/3 rule test. And I think this is a very big task for the new IBC team.
All right, so yeah, that's pretty much it this morning. Those are the headlines on the 2 newspapers, the Daily Nation and the Standard.
Yes, Cynthia, we always keep saying that this is a Christian-based TV station, and sometimes we have to keep uplifting souls of our listeners and our audience and our viewers too, because sometimes situations does not come very well, and some of the news that we read are so discouraging to someone who voted. Yesterday, I went through a certain place around just in Nairobi, and I asked someone, will you be voting come 2027? Actually, the answer that came back is that they've not voted and that they'll never vote. And sometimes this is a discouragement that is posed from our leaders, because if I elect you, then you will never deliver. I don't feel encouraged at all to make sure that I put you back into any position, or it will paint every leader to be cunning, to be so tricky, and to lack that developmental focus. And we stand here as a Christian TV station to make sure that sometimes, and most of the times as Kenyans, we go through a lot of challenges, and the person individually, they may face a lot of challenges, but what we trust in is that God is always ahead of us, and what we need to make so personal is the prayers that we keep praying every day, and trusting and believing that one day things will be well. As you do your part, as you pray, as you play your role, and as you act on your position and your responsibilities and duties, please make sure that you don't forget prayer, because prayer is only machine that propels you into the next destination. And everything you put in prayer, and maybe you've been in a big desperation, one time God will uplift you. Cynthia, before you go, you have anything to say?
Not really. It's just, call upon you to continue following our programming throughout the day. See you at 1 p.m. for the news at 1 bulletin. My name is Cynthia Nanjala.
Thank you. My name is Jeff Kimeyo Somba. Good morning.
News.